Amara Ellis walked into the gleaming, high-end department store on Fifth Avenue with a sense of quiet confidence. The air inside was cool and smelled faintly of expensive perfume, a world away from the bustling streets outside. Amara had built her life around creating beauty. Her cosmetics brand was now worth $900 million, making her one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the industry. But today, she wasn't there to talk business or meet investors. She just wanted to treat herself after months of relentless work. She wandered through the aisles admiring the luxurious handbags displayed under soft spotlights. Each bag seemed like a piece of art, crafted with precision and care. Amara smiled, feeling a rare moment of calm. Her phone buzzed occasionally in her pocket, but she ignored it, savoring the peace. She carried a simple tote bag, a well-worn, canvas bag that had been given to her by her grandmother years ago. It wasn't flashy or expensive, but it held sentimental value. To Amara, it was more than just a bag. It was a reminder of where she came from and how far she'd come. As she paused to examine a sleek black clutch, she noticed someone approaching, out of the corner of her eye. A security guard, tall and broad-shouldered, stopped beside her. His badge glinted under the lights as he crossed his arms over his chest. At first, Amara thought maybe he needed help finding something, or perhaps there was an issue with the store. But then he spoke, his tone dripping with condescension. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said loudly enough for nearby shoppers to hear. "I don't think that bag you're carrying really fits in here." He gestured vaguely toward her tote bag, his lips curling into what might have been intended as a smirk. "This is a luxury store. Maybe you should shop somewhere else." Amara froze, her fingers tightening around the edge of the display case. For a moment, she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Was this man seriously judging her because of the bag she carried? She looked down at the tote, its faded fabric and frayed edges telling stories of family gatherings, late-night study sessions, and dreams sketched out on scraps of paper tucked inside. This bag had seen her through some of the toughest moments of her life, and now it was being mocked in front of strangers. The other shoppers nearby turned their heads, pretending not to stare but clearly listening. Some looked uncomfortable, shifting awkwardly in place. Others smirked along with the guard as if they agreed with his assessment. Amara felt heat rise to her cheeks, embarrassment mixing with anger. Part of her wanted to defend herself, to explain who she was, to remind him that money didn't define worth, but another part knew that wouldn't change anything. People like him didn't listen. They made assumptions based on appearances and never bothered to look deeper. Instead, she forced herself to take a deep breath. "Thank you for your concern," she said evenly, meeting his gaze without flinching. Her voice was calm, almost icy, though her heart was pounding. "But I'm fine right here." Without waiting for a response, she turned away and continued, browsing, trying to ignore the weight of eyes still on her. She could feel the guard lingering nearby, watching her every move, but she refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing her rattled. For the next 10 minutes, Amara moved through the store, forcing herself to focus on the task at hand. She picked up a few items, a silk scarf, a leather wallet, but her mind kept returning to the encounter. Why did people feel entitled to judge others so quickly? What gave them the right to decide who belonged and who didn't? These questions swirled in her head, feeding her frustration. By the time she reached the checkout counter, she knew she couldn't stay any longer. Paying for her purchases felt like a small act of defiance, reclaiming a tiny bit of control in a situation designed to make her feel powerless. When she stepped back onto the sidewalk, the noise and energy of the city hit her like a wave. The contrast between the sterile, judgmental atmosphere of the store and the vibrant chaos outside was striking. Amara took a moment to steady herself, leaning against the building as she processed everything that had happened. She pulled out her phone and opened her social media app, scrolling absent-mindedly through posts. Then an idea struck her. If the guard thought her bag didn't belong in his store, maybe it was time to show the world exactly where it did belong. With deliberate movements, she typed out a post, recounting the incident in detail. She included a photo of her tote bag, holding it up proudly despite its worn appearance. "This bag," she wrote, "has seen me through more than any designer label ever could, and no amount of judgment can take that away." As she hit post, she felt a mix of apprehension and determination. She didn't know how people would react, but one thing was certain. She wasn't going to let anyone diminish her worth. Not today, not ever. Little did she know, those words would spark a firestorm, igniting conversations far beyond what she could have imagined. Amara's fingers hovered over the post button for a brief second before she tapped it, sending her words out into the vast expanse of the internet. She didn't expect much, just a few likes from close friends, and maybe some supportive comments. But within minutes, notifications began flooding in. Her phone buzzed incessantly, lighting up with reactions from people who had seen her story. What started as a quiet moment of reflection quickly spiraled into something much bigger than she could have anticipated. Her followers were outraged. The image of her humble tote bag juxtaposed against the opulent backdrop of the luxury store struck a chord with many. Some shared their own experiences of being judged or treated unfairly because of how they looked or what they carried. Others expressed disbelief that such blatant discrimination could still happen in this day and age. "How dare they?" one commenter wrote. "Your bag is worth more than all those designer labels combined." Another chimed in. "This isn't just about a bag. It's about respect." Word spread rapidly. Influencers and activists picked up the post, sharing it across their platforms. Hashtags like Respect Her Bag and True Luxury began trending on social media. News outlets caught wind of the story, and soon Amara was fielding calls from journalists eager to hear her side. Overnight, her name became synonymous with resilience and authenticity. People admired not only her success but also her courage to speak out when others might have stayed silent. But while the majority rallied behind her, there were dissenting voices too. Critics accused her of exaggerating the incident, suggesting she should get over it since she was wealthy and successful. "If you're so rich, why are you even complaining?" one troll commented. Others dismissed her post as a publicity stunt, claiming she was using the situation to gain attention for her brand. These negative remarks stung, but Amara refused to let them derail her focus. She knew that speaking truth to power often came with backlash, and she wasn't about to back down now. Meanwhile, the department store scrambled to respond. Their initial statement was vague and defensive, acknowledging a misunderstanding without taking full responsibility. They offered a generic apology, saying they regretted if anyone felt unwelcome in their establishment. To many it came across as insincere, a half-hearted attempt to mitigate damage rather than address the root issue. Customers began calling for boycotts, posting photos of themselves returning items or canceling memberships. Protesters gathered outside the flagship location, holding signs that read, "Luxury should be inclusive and we won't shop where we aren't respected." As the controversy grew, major sponsors of Amara's beauty brand started reconsidering their partnerships. At first it was subtle, a delayed email response here, a canceled meeting there. Then came the formal announcements. One by one, companies that had previously aligned themselves with her brand issued statements explaining their decision to part ways. Some cited reputational risks, while others simply said they wanted to reassess their strategies. It was clear. They feared association with controversy more than they valued standing by a loyal partner. Each sponsorship loss hit hard. Financially, it meant a significant blow to her company's marketing efforts and revenue streams. Emotionally, it felt like betrayal. These were brands that had celebrated her success during the good times, attending glitzy launch parties and featuring her in glossy ad campaigns. Yet when things got tough, they distanced themselves without hesitation. Amara spent sleepless nights poring over spreadsheets trying to figure out how to keep her business afloat. Doubts crept in, isolated thoughts whispering that maybe she shouldn't have spoken up after all. Despite the mounting challenges, Amara found solace in the overwhelming support from her community. Messages poured in from women who saw themselves in her story. Black women, working mothers, entrepreneurs, and dreamers who understood what it meant to face adversity and keep pushing forward. Many pledged to buy her products directly, vowing to stand by her brand no matter what. Retailers owned by people of color reached out, offering shelf space and collaborations. Even competitors sent notes of encouragement, reminding her that solidarity mattered more than rivalry in moments like these. The tide began to shift subtly. While traditional sponsors pulled away, grassroots movements emerged in their place. Independent bloggers and micro-influencers started promoting her products organically, sharing heartfelt testimonials about how her cosmetics had transformed their routines. Online orders surged, driven by customers determined to show their loyalty. For every door that closed, another seemed to open, fueled by authenticity and connection. Amara realized something profound during this whirlwind. Her true allies weren't the ones who stuck around only when things were smooth sailing. They were the people who showed up when the waters got rough, the ones who believed in her mission and vision, not just her marketability. This realization gave her strength. Instead of dwelling on the losses, she channeled her energy into building something even stronger. If corporate giants couldn't see her value, then she would create her own lane, one rooted in inclusivity, empowerment, and unapologetic self-worth. By the end of the week, the viral storm showed no signs of slowing down. The department store faced mounting pressure, with shareholders demanding answers and employees speaking out about systemic issues within the company. Meanwhile, Amara's brand weathered the turbulence, emerging with a renewed sense of purpose. What had begun as a humiliating encounter in a luxury store had transformed into a catalyst for change, not just for her business, but for an entire movement challenging outdated notions of privilege and belonging. Through it all, Amara remained steadfast. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she also knew she wasn't alone. With her community by her side, she was ready to rewrite the rules and redefine what it meant to truly thrive. The days following the fallout felt like walking through a storm. Each morning, Amara woke up to a barrage of emails and messages, some supportive, others critical, and many logistical nightmares tied to the sudden loss of sponsorships. Her once thriving partnerships, which had seemed so secure, were now crumbling before her eyes. The financial strain was undeniable. Marketing budgets that had been allocated for campaigns disappeared overnight, leaving gaping holes in her plans. Production timelines were disrupted, shipments delayed, and retailers who relied on those partnerships began questioning whether they should continue stocking her products. Amara sat at her kitchen table late one night, staring at spreadsheets, filled with red numbers. She had always prided herself on being a problem solver, someone who could navigate challenges with grace and strategy. But this felt different. It wasn't just about business anymore. It was personal. Every sponsorship withdrawal felt like a rejection of who she was, a Black woman who dared to speak out against injustice. The weight of it all pressed down on her shoulders, making it hard to breathe. But amidst the chaos, something remarkable happened. Her team rallied around her. They weren't just employees. They were believers in her vision. During an emergency meeting held over Zoom, her creative director, Maya, spoke up first. "We've built this brand on authenticity," she said firmly. "If we pivot now and lean into what makes us unique, we can turn this around." Others chimed in, offering ideas and solutions. By the end of the call, Amara felt a flicker of hope reignite within her. Together, they decided to take a bold step. Instead of chasing traditional sponsors, they would focus on building deeper connections with their core audience, the people who had stood by them when no one else would. The next phase began with a campaign unlike anything they'd done before. Dubbed Authentic Beauty, it celebrated real stories from real women. Amara wanted to highlight not just physical beauty but inner strength, resilience, and individuality. She reached out to customers who had shared their experiences online, women who used her products to feel confident during job interviews, first dates, or even chemotherapy sessions. Their testimonials became the heart of the campaign, featured prominently on social media, the company website, and even in limited edition packaging. To amplify the message, Amara cut ties with mainstream retailers altogether. Instead, she partnered with independent boutiques, pop-up shops, and organizations run by women of color. These partnerships weren't just transactional, they were rooted in mutual respect and shared values. For example, she collaborated with a nonprofit that provided mentorship and resources to young Black entrepreneurs. In exchange for hosting workshops, the organization received a percentage of sales from specific product lines. It was a win-win. Amara's brand gained visibility while supporting causes that aligned with its mission. Word of these initiatives spread quickly. Customers responded enthusiastically, flooding the brand's website with orders and sharing their purchases proudly on social media. One viral TikTok video showed a teenager gifting her mother a lipstick from the new collection, saying, "This is more than makeup, it's hope." Another customer posted a photo of herself wearing one of Amara's foundations, captioning it, "When they told me I didn't belong, I proved them wrong," just like Amara did. These moments reminded Amara why she started her company in the first place, to empower others to see their worth no matter what society tried to tell them. Still, the road wasn't without obstacles. Competitors seized the opportunity to undercut her prices, luring away some retailers who were hesitant to commit fully to her revamped approach. Supply chain issues caused delays, frustrating loyal customers who had eagerly awaited restocks. And there were still trolls lurking in comment sections trying to discredit her efforts. But Amara refused to let negativity derail her momentum. She leaned on her support system, her family, friends, and team, to stay grounded. Her grandmother's tote bag, now sitting prominently on a shelf in her office, served as a constant reminder of where she came from and why she kept fighting. One particularly challenging day, Amara received a letter from a young girl named Tia. Enclosed was a drawing of a woman holding a tube of lipstick, standing tall against a backdrop of skyscrapers. "Dear Amara," the note read, "I want to be like you when I grow up. You showed me that my voice matters, even if people try to silence it." Holding the letter in her hands, Amara felt tears welling up. This was bigger than her brand now. It was about creating a legacy, a world where everyone, regardless of race, gender, or background, could feel seen and valued. As weeks turned into months, the tide began to shift. Sales rebounded, surpassing projections thanks to the grassroots movement driving demand. Independent boutiques reported record-breaking revenue, crediting Amara's products for attracting diverse clientele. Even influencers who had initially hesitated to associate with her brand during the controversy began reaching out, eager to collaborate. What had once seemed like a devastating blow was transforming into an unexpected blessing. Through it all, Amara remained acutely aware of the broader implications of her journey. She knew her experience wasn't isolated. It was part of a larger pattern of systemic bias and exclusion. Determined to drive meaningful change, she launched a foundation aimed at addressing these issues head-on. The foundation focused on 3 pillars: education, entrepreneurship, and advocacy. Scholarships were awarded to students pursuing careers in STEM fields, grants supported minority-owned businesses, and workshops educated companies on fostering inclusive environments. By the time the dust settled, Amara's brand had not only survived, but thrived. Its valuation soared past previous estimates, fueled by a loyal customer base that believed in its mission. More importantly, though, Amara had proven that success wasn't measured solely by profit margins or accolades. True success lay in staying true to oneself, uplifting others, and refusing to compromise on values, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. Looking back, Amara realized that losing those sponsorships might have been the best thing that ever happened to her. It forced her to reevaluate what truly mattered and to build something sustainable and authentic. And while the scars from the incident would always remain, they served as reminders of her strength and resilience. After all, sometimes it takes losing everything to discover what you're truly capable of achieving. Months had passed since the whirlwind of controversy and change, but Amara's journey was far from over. The Authentic Beauty campaign had breathed new life into her brand, transforming it into something more than just a cosmetics line. It was a movement. Yet rebuilding wasn't easy. Every step forward came with its own set of challenges, forcing Amara to dig deeper than ever before. But through grit, creativity, and an unwavering commitment to her values, she began crafting a future that felt aligned with who she truly was. The first major shift happened when Amara decided to host a series of pop-up events across the country. These weren't your typical product launches filled with glitz and glamour. They were intimate gatherings designed to foster connection and community. Each event took place in neighborhoods often overlooked by mainstream brands, places where people craved representation and authenticity. Amara personally attended everyone, standing behind tables laden with her products while sharing her story with anyone willing to listen. At one such event in Atlanta, a young woman named Jasmine approached Amara hesitantly. She held up a tube of foundation, her hands trembling slightly. "I never thought I'd find a shade that matched me," she admitted softly. "Most stores don't carry colors for skin like mine." Her words struck a chord deep within Amara. It reminded her why she started this business in the first place, to fill gaps left by an industry that too often ignored women of color. Amara smiled warmly, placing a reassuring hand on Jasmine's shoulder. "You deserve to feel seen," she said, "and not just in makeup, but in every aspect of your life." That moment stayed with her long after the event ended, fueling her determination to keep pushing boundaries and expanding access to her products. By the time the tour wrapped up, thousands of women had attended, many leaving with not just purchases, but renewed confidence and hope. Meanwhile, Amara turned her attention to digital innovation. Recognizing the power of technology, she partnered with a team of developers to create an app called Glow Guide. The app allowed users to virtually try on shades, learn skincare tips tailored to their needs, and connect with other members of the community. What made Glow Guide stand out, though, was its emphasis on storytelling. Users could upload videos or written posts about how makeup helped them navigate pivotal moments in their lives, whether it was acing a job interview, celebrating a milestone, or simply finding joy in everyday routines. The app quickly gained traction, becoming a hub for empowerment and self-expression. But perhaps the most transformative decision Amara made during this period was cutting ties with mass production factories overseas. Instead, she invested in local artisans and small-scale manufacturers right here in the United States. This move wasn't cheap. In fact, it significantly increased operational costs, but it aligned perfectly with her vision of sustainability and ethical practices. Packaging became eco-friendly, ingredients were sourced responsibly, and workers received fair wages and safe conditions. Customers noticed the difference immediately. Not only did the products perform better, but they also carried a sense of purpose that resonated deeply with buyers. As word spread about these changes, media outlets clamored to feature Amara's story. Magazines that had once ignored her now begged for interviews. Talk shows invited her to share her insights on entrepreneurship, diversity, and resilience. At first, Amara hesitated. She worried about being reduced to a soundbite or pigeonholed as the activist CEO. But then she realized, if she didn't tell her story, someone else would, and they might get it wrong. So, she leaned in, using every platform available to amplify her message. One particularly memorable appearance was on a popular morning talk show. Sitting across from the host, Amara recounted the incident at the department store with unflinching honesty. She talked about the pain of losing sponsorships, the fear of failure, and the strength she found in her community. When the host asked what advice she'd give to others facing similar struggles, Amara paused, choosing her words carefully. "Don't let anyone dim your light," she said finally. "Your worth isn't determined by how others see you. It's defined by how you see yourself. And if you stay true to that, no obstacle is insurmountable." Her words struck a nerve. Viewers flooded social media with messages of gratitude, calling her segment life-changing and exactly what I needed to hear today. For Amara, it was validation that her voice mattered. Not just for herself, but for countless others navigating their own battles. Back at headquarters, her team worked tirelessly to keep up with demand. Orders poured in faster than they could fulfill them, prompting Amara to expand her workforce. She prioritized hiring individuals from marginalized communities, ensuring that her company reflected the diversity she championed. Training programs were implemented to help employees grow, both personally and professionally. One employee, a single mother named Lisa, tearfully thanked Amara during a staff meeting. "Before this job, I didn't think I had options," Lisa said. "Now I know I can achieve anything I set my mind to." Despite the progress, there were still hurdles to overcome. Competitors launched smear campaigns, spreading false rumors about her product's quality. Some critics accused her of exploiting activism for profit, ignoring the years of hard work and genuine advocacy that preceded the controversy. Through it all, Amara remained steadfast. She refused to engage in petty arguments, instead doubling down on transparency and accountability. Regular updates on the company's environmental impact, employee satisfaction rates, and charitable contributions silenced doubters and strengthened customer loyalty. By the end of the year, Amara's brand had not only recovered but soared to unprecedented heights. Revenue surpassed pre-controversy levels, and partnerships with grassroots organizations flourished. Independent boutiques reported record sales, crediting Amara's products for attracting diverse clientele eager to support inclusive businesses. Even former sponsors tentatively reached out, expressing interest in rekindling relationships. Amara politely declined, knowing her brand no longer needed validation from those who had abandoned her when she needed them most. Looking back, Amara marveled at how much had changed, not just externally, but internally. The insecure girl who once doubted her place in the world had grown into a fearless leader unafraid to challenge norms and fight for justice. She understood now that success wasn't about avoiding storms. It was about learning to dance in the rain. And dance she did with grace, resilience, and a heart full of gratitude for everyone who had stood by her side. Through it all, Amara never forgot the lesson that started it all. Sometimes, the things we carry, the tote bags, the scars, the stories, are worth more than any designer label. They remind us of where we've been, shape who we are, and guide us toward where we're meant to go. The stage lights were warm and bright, casting a golden glow over the audience as Amara stepped up to the podium. The room was packed. Entrepreneurs, industry leaders, journalists, and fans filled every seat, their eyes fixed on her with anticipation. This was the Entrepreneurship Summit, one of the most prestigious events in the business world, and Amara had been invited to deliver the keynote speech. It was a moment she had dreamed of, but never imagined would come after everything she'd endured. Yet here she was, standing tall, ready to share her story, not just as a founder of a $900 million brand, but as a woman who had faced adversity head-on and emerged stronger because of it. She adjusted the microphone and took a deep breath, letting the energy of the room settle around her. "Good morning," she began, her voice steady and calm. "When I agreed to speak today, I thought about what I wanted to say. Should I talk about numbers, strategies, growth hacks?" She paused, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. But then I realized something. Success isn't just about balance sheets or market shares. True success is about authenticity, the courage to stay true to yourself, even when the world tries to tell you otherwise. As she spoke, Amara wove together the threads of her journey, the highs and the lows, the triumphs and the heartbreaks. She recounted the day in the department store, the sting of judgment from the security guard, and the wave of humiliation that followed. But she didn't stop there. She shared how that painful moment had sparked a chain reaction, leading to viral outrage, lost sponsorships, and the eventual reinvention of her brand. Her words painted vivid pictures, drawing the audience into each chapter of her life like they were living it alongside her. "I could have stayed quiet," she admitted, her tone softening. "I could have walked away from that store and pretended nothing happened. After all, I had achieved so much already. Why risk rocking the boat? But silence wasn't an option for me, not this time, because staying silent meant letting someone else decide my worth. And I refused to give anyone that power." Her honesty resonated deeply, Heads nodded throughout the room, some people leaning forward in their chairs, hanging on to her every word. Amara described the sleepless nights spent worrying about her company's future, the fear of failure that gnawed at her confidence. But she also celebrated the victories, the grassroots campaigns, the partnerships with independent boutiques, the outpouring of support from customers who believed in her vision. It wasn't easy, she said, but sometimes the hardest. Paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. She went on to explain how losing those big-name sponsors forced her to rethink what success truly meant. For years, I chased validation from others, from investors, from corporations, from society itself. I thought if I could prove myself to them, I'd finally feel worthy. But the truth is, worthiness doesn't come from external approval. It comes from within. She gestured toward her grandmother's tote bag, which now sat proudly on a table beside her. This bag taught me that lesson. It reminded me that value isn't determined by price tags or appearances. It's about meaning, history, and resilience. Amara's speech wasn't just about her own journey. It was a call to action for everyone listening. She urged entrepreneurs to build businesses rooted in purpose rather than profit alone. She encouraged leaders to prioritize inclusivity and equity, not as buzzwords, but as core values. And she challenged individuals to embrace their authentic selves, no matter how daunting that might seem. The world will try to box you in, she said passionately. It will tell you where you belong, what you're capable of, and who you should be. But don't let it. You define your own boundaries and then break them. By the time she finished speaking, the room erupted into applause. People rose to their feet, cheering and clapping as Amara stood humbly at the podium, tears glistening in her eyes. Journalists rushed to interview her afterward, eager to capture more of her insights. Attendees lined up to thank her personally, many sharing their own stories of struggle and perseverance. One young woman handed her a note that read, "You gave me permission to dream bigger. Thank you." In the weeks that followed, Amara's speech went viral, inspiring millions worldwide. Clips of her talk were shared across social media, accompanied by captions like, "This is leadership, and exactly what we need to hear right now." Her message transcended industries, resonating with anyone who had ever felt underestimated or overlooked. For Amara, it was proof that vulnerability wasn't a weakness, it was a superpower. Back home, she continued expanding her foundation, pouring resources into programs that empowered marginalized communities. Scholarships funded STEM education for girls of color. Grants supported minority-owned startups. Workshops trained corporate leaders on dismantling systemic biases. Through it all, Amara remained hands-on, ensuring that every initiative reflected her commitment to meaningful change. Her team joked that she worked harder now than ever before, but Amara simply smiled. "There's still so much work to do," she'd say, "and I'm just getting started." Meanwhile, the department store that had once dismissed her reached out again, this time with a formal apology and an offer to collaborate. They proposed featuring her products prominently in their stores and co-hosting events focused on diversity and inclusion. While the gesture seemed sincere, Amara declined politely. "Thank you for reaching out," she wrote in her response. "But my focus remains on empowering communities directly. There are better ways to create lasting impact." Instead, she turned her attention to opening her own flagship store, a space designed to celebrate individuality and foster connection. Located in a vibrant neighborhood known for its cultural diversity, the store became more than just a retail location. It housed art exhibits showcasing local talent, hosted workshops on entrepreneurship, and served as a safe haven for women seeking mentorship and support. Customers described the atmosphere as welcoming and uplifting, a stark contrast to the cold exclusivity of traditional luxury retailers. As her brand continued to grow, Amara made sure to honor her roots. Every product launch included nods to her heritage, packaging adorned with African-inspired patterns, ingredients sourced from sustainable farms in her ancestors' homeland. She often visited schools and community centers, speaking to young people about the importance of dreaming boldly and working hard. You don't have to choose between being successful and staying true to yourself, she told them. You can do both. In fact, that's where real magic happens. Years later, when Amara looked back on her journey, she saw not just a series of challenges overcome but a legacy built. Her brand was worth billions, but its true value lay in the lives it touched. Women around the world used her products not just to enhance their beauty, but to affirm their strength and resilience. Entrepreneurs cited her as a role model, proof that authenticity and determination could conquer even the toughest odds. And yet, despite all her achievements, Amara remained grounded. She still carried her grandmother's tote bag wherever she went, a quiet reminder of where she came from and the lessons that shaped her. On days when doubt crept in or the weight of responsibility felt overwhelming, she'd run her fingers over its worn fabric and remember, she hadn't gotten here alone. Her community, her values, and her unshakable belief in herself had carried her through. At the end of the day, Amara knew her story wasn't just hers. It belonged to everyone who dared to stand up, speak out, and rewrite the rules. She hoped it would inspire others to do the same, creating ripple effects of change far beyond what any one person could achieve alone. Because in the end, that's what mattered most. Leaving the world better than she found it, one bold step at a time.